then all of a sudden Brighton opened up. It was like, come ride over here, no restrictions, ride the place. And that's what was, like, wow, we finally get to go to a resort and ride lifts at a regular time, no restrictions. And that's what really set it off. Brighton's still just always over there, not pushing for anything, but everyone for some reason gravitated over to Brighton. It's the end of the road up there. That little pocket just gets good snow and good riders and good people. It's really neat, I'm so glad to see that it just really hasn't changed at all.
But the first day I ever rode was on his Clico plastic board that he still has in 1980. It would take us 40 minutes to make one run. And that was the year we had a 200-inch base before January 1st. Like, it was just, up to our necks. And those boards and our skills, no.
It was one of those things, I hate using the cliches of it'd be on track for days, but it was like, you'd show up and if it wasn't even on massive powder days, it wasn't that crowded. Like, you would have these quiet weekend powder days even. And we didn't even really venture out of bounds back then. Like, we wouldn't even go over to the Mary Shoots or outside of the evergreen boundary. Maybe occasionally we'd dip out, but like for us, dipping out was like going 40 yards beyond the rope or something,
The terrain at Brighton is just so insane. Hike off the top of Millie, you got the Millie Bowl and all the chute at the top and all the cliff jumps, all the natural terrain there was just, we were in heaven, trying to evolving sport. I mean, the word got out too, pretty soon, Damian Sanders and Dana Nicholson and, all the pros were starting to show up. Everybody started coming out to Utah, riding, Brighton. I remember seeing Damian coming down. He just pointed the top of that chute up on Millie Peak there. We couldn't fathom that because there was the traverse across the bottom, where you could get off the lift and traverse over. And, he actually pointed it down and made it over that traverse. And we were just in awe when we saw that, I remember Dana and Damien, they were just launching off everything they could possibly see. Every one of those cliffs with Millie. And it was just fun to be part of that, to see that resort grow too. I mean, eventually they could put all those new lifts in on, it just evolved so quick and so, you think about it from the mid 80s to early 90s, how quick the sport evolved, man. Brighton was right in there with a destination spot where everybody wanted to go.
Tallest Waves was the first one we did. And that was, a lot of it was at Brighton. And then they got a bigger budget for Shredding Vacation from Hell. So we were able to do some cat touring, but still a lot of it was filmed at Brighton because they were so, again, just so open to letting us do it, and having fun up there. And to have Bobby Brady film you, that's still one of the greatest things ever, is to hang out with Mike Lookaland, aka Bobby Brady, and just, and give him, poke fun at him, and he loved it. You look back on those, they were movies. They were it wasn't just a quick video or this or that. It was, they put some, Mike Lookaland and Mick Worthen, and I forgot there's a couple other guys, but it was a good team. Again, to go back to that, all these same jumps are still there. It's so cool that you just, mountains don't change that much. It's really cool.
89, 90, went to check out Brighton, and that's when we kind of saw the possibilities there. And I think maybe even what drew us there to give it another chance or to check it out more was the Avalanche team came and did a demo with Damien, probably like Damien Nicholson, maybe Steve Graham. I don't remember really anyone who else. They all kind of looked like Damien. We went and checked it out. I think at one point we kind of maybe felt like the talent that was kind of homegrown talent, the locals were kind of getting overlooked. Every time Brighton was receiving any kind of attention nationally, it was like from people who came to visit. And so it was kind of an inspiration to start this little magazine of our own, kind of focused on like the talent here and the way we saw Brighton, and not just like these guys that came from out of state. At one point it was like, hey, I should just get a camera and snap some photos too, since I'm always around. And everyone was just a crew. There was only, there was probably like a couple dozen people who snowboarded up there, and you knew them all. Every single person that snowboarded, you knew them, and you became friends with them. And you might not, and actually in most cases, have really not much in common with them, but because we were also like laser focused on snowboarding, and we'd all kind of found it. It wasn't like, it's so different than today, where like, subcultures are just kind of handed to you on a platter on your phone. And so like find snowboarding in that era, in a community, and something that's like actually pretty rad, not just like some cheesy thing dreamed up in a marketing room, but a lifestyle, if you will. We just met on the slopes of Brighton because, hey, you snowboard, I snowboard, we're friends, let's do this. Like, where's the jumps? What do you know about? Like, oh, what's that board? So it was so cool. And not to take away from anything from this era too, because obviously it has its benefits, but man, what a special time.
They let us on the lift right away. We were riding mostly, I can't remember, we might have been relegated to the Millicent side of Brighton. We rode there anyways. Like at the time, the other side wasn't good, so I learned to snowboard on Millie. A lot of those boards back then, as you probably know, want to turn circles, and it's a nightmare.
Yeah, I just remember we pull up to the Brighton parking lot, and then on a power day, it's like everyone, like the main parking lot's full, but then Mount Millicent on the right, there'd just be like a couple trucks there, and it was ended up being George Johnson and Richard Chesky, and kind of would go to Millicent side. We kind of just follow these tracks through the woods and ended up kind of hooking up with those guys, and they were great. They were all stoked to have other people to go ride with, and they showed us around to all their little secret stashes and just the hikes around and easy access to the backcountry that Brighton offered. That that they just knew it like the back of their hands.
Finally got my first snowboard from Salty Peaks from Noel Walkinshaw and Drew. Drew was obviously, kind of a dick as usual, but cool. But Noel was super cool. Back then, you didn't really have to go very far to get fresh tracks. It wasn't very crowded. You just show up and work your way over, out to Mary's, start Evergreen, Mary's, and then start heading out towards the bowl and out into Mary's. Brighton was just like home,
Ride came out with those stickers that said powder sucks. I remember for a bunch of us, we were like, dude, it sucks so bad, because at Brighton, it would snow so much and there was not enough traffic that you would literally get stuck all the time, because it's steep, flat, steep, flat, steep, flat, and there wasn't enough people to like keep a run all the way through. So you basically get some turns in, then move to like a lane that had been packed down so you could get out of there. And it would take a week or two for jumps to form in. And you're like, yeah, powder does suck. All we want to do is hit jumps.